Hey everybody, welcome to Reading Update from the Floor. It is particularly hot out today in Phoenix, and I drove a lot today. I also ate quite a large lunch, and it just feels like a sitting on the floor type of day. So, we're down here, and it is what it is. I don't really have much of an agenda for this video. I don't really have any cute recommendations or topics, but in the spirit of classic booktube content, I just wanted to give you guys a reading update of what I'm reading right now. The first thing that I'm reading right now, and you may have picked up on it because I've posted about it in my shorts, is Shogun by James Clavell. It's been really good so far, but at the same time it's kind of a drag to get through in some ways, only in the way that it is 1,200 pages long and I'm only 300 pages through it, and so it just feels like the end is never gonna get here. It's so funny that a book that you're enjoying, you would think, oh, more of it, that would make it better, right? Not necessarily. Sometimes there can be too much of a good thing, but with that said, I'm still a quarter of the way through it, so I can't really judge it that much yet. I've mentioned this in one of my other videos, but it's really kind of jarring reading some of the language that's going on in it in terms of the racial epithets and how they're referring to people, whether it's the Japanese referring to the white people or the white people referring to the Japanese or what have you. There's certainly a lot of cultural context going on that I'm not a historical expert on, so I couldn't really tell you whether or not it's real or not. I did have someone in my comments on Instagram point out an article that kind of goes into the factual versus unfactual aspects of the story, so I'll put a screenshot of it here and I'll put the link in the video description so that you can go look at it. I haven't read it yet, to be honest. Shogun has been very good. I will say that this is one of those books that you see on Goodreads a lot, and sort of a classic book that a lot of people have read over the years, and people always talk really highly of it, so it's sort of been on my mind to read it for a long time, but really it's the fact that the TV show came out that made me want to read it. I'm someone who has a lot of leeway in terms of whether or not I will like an adaptation. I'm definitely not a person that gets upset with an adaptation for sort of diverting from the source material or changing things. I think there's examples of a lot of adaptations that have improved upon the source material. The one that always comes to mind for me is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. It's a great book, and I think it does stand up on its own, but I think the film adaptation that Alex Garland did is a masterpiece in a lot of ways, so, there's always ways to improve it. But with that said, the other thing about me is, if I go watch an adaptation of a book before I read the book, I'm probably not going to read the book. As good as the book may be, once I have the bones of the story in my head, I'm do I really want to read 1,200 pages of this thing that I just watched? So really I'm reading Shogun right now so that I can watch the show, because I know that if I don't read it, then I'll just watch the show and then I'll never read it, and I've heard it's a great book, and it is so far. It's written very much like an action movie in a lot of ways. It's very action-packed. There's a sequence that I just read not too long ago where they're on a ship heading towards a different part of Japan, and the way it reads is just I don't know, Master and Commander or something like that. And again, that's something that's based on a book too. I was expecting it to be a lot more esoteric and hard to get into, but that has not been the case at all. It's actually been really accessible. Once I'm done with the book, I'll do some proper analysis. I'll probably get into that article. I'll read some more historical context around the book. But for now, all I can say is that I'm really enjoying it. If you've watched the show, maybe it's still worth reading. If you haven't watched the show, I would jump into it. I know my channel covers some Japanese stuff, and will probably do more so in the future. I've covered a lot of Haruki Murakami. This is a great example of how just because something is from the same country as another thing doesn't mean it has anything to do with each other. This story couldn't be further away from what a Haruki Murakami novel is, which is, I don't know, probably an obvious thing to say. I do think people tend to pigeonhole certain types of cultural content from other countries into little boxes, and just because this book is set in Japan doesn't mean it has anything to do with modern Japanese culture or anything like that. So Anyway, that was a lot of word vomit. The other thing that I'm reading right now is called They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us by Hanif Abdurraqib. As much as I like Shogun, this is an incredible book. It's a book of essays about music and culture in America. And I've never read one of Hanif's books before. He's written several. He's written this one. He wrote a book called Little Devil in America. He just had one come out recently called On Basketball and Ascension, I think is what it's called. He's just an incredibly eloquent, emotion-filled essay writer and cultural critic. And when I'm reading this book, I can't help but look at it as I'm learning something, not just in the context of what he's telling me about, but also just in terms of the craft. I'm someone who prides myself on being a good writer. I haven't written too much for the channel in a while. I've sort of drifted away from video essay content into stuff like this where I'm talking to the camera. But really, that's the stuff that I enjoy doing a lot. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of brain power. But when I finish an essay and I read it, that's the thing I'm the most proud of, opposed to meme content and sketches and just talking to the camera like this. This is good for, just regularly appearing on your feed. And I do still try to make these things quality. But with that said, I think at my core, I am a writer, and reading his stuff really inspires me in a lot of ways. I'm reading it and just thinking I don't know, this guy's just really special, and I can only kind of aspire to be as good of a writer as he is. So it's been really great in terms of the content, but it's also been really great just learning from how he writes. He's fairly conventional, but there are ways in which he sort of bends out of convention for a while in terms of the style that he's using or the format in which he's telling these stories. And it makes me it makes me less afraid to sort of branch out and try new things. And I think that's how something is a great work of art in a lot of ways, is when you see it and it makes you want to put something else out into the world just to try and, scratch at the greatness of the thing that you've just seen. So They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us. Really incredible so far. I'm also sort of very casually reading Children of Time by Andrei Tchaikovsky, I think is his name. Space spiders. Shit is pretty cool. Frankly, my job is so hectic a lot of the time that I've not even had that much time to read lately. I definitely do it at night before I go to bed. I really wish I had some time, just 3 hours in the middle of the day where my brain is not fried from TikTok and just living, to read for 3 hours straight and not touch my phone and just really get into a book. Probably the only thing stopping me from doing that is myself, so I should probably just do it. But yeah, just haven't been reading a ton lately. I think my plan for myself and for the channel is to try and wean myself off of staring at my phone so much. If I'm going to be making content for people to stare at their phones on, I should probably do less of it myself, so that way I have things to say and perspectives to give y'all. I don't know. If I spend as much time reading as I do staring at short form content that 99% of the time isn't doing anything good for my life, I would have read probably double the amount of books I've read this year. At some point, maybe I'll do a video about the books that I've read this year. Definitely at the end of the year, I'll go through them all. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. I think this video is probably for the hardcore Velacore Ventures heads. Thanks for tuning in. There's been quite a lot more of you recently, which has been really cool. I've been making a concerted effort to post at least one video a week for a while, making a lot of short form content. I'm not sure how many people from the short form are watching the long form, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'm having fun. I hope you guys are too. And yeah, thanks for being here. I think that's about it for today. I got a nose piercing today, or rather I got a nose ring put in. Biden dropped out today. Crazy shit. This will not be a political channel ever. I just don't have the energy for it. But certainly interesting times here in America. Yeah, I gotta stop talking. See you later. Bye-bye.